Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Ashley Victoria Long, will you marry me?
Yes, I will marry you.
Hey. Slow down just a little bit. Are you sure you want to make that commitment?
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money. The WorryFree Retirement. Your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist, 5-time author, and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Marriage, the engagement and subsequent holy matrimony between two people with the sole purpose of committing one another to a brand new, lifelong relationship till death do us part. So what does the commitment of marriage between two parties have to do with you, your money, and possibly working with a financial advisor? Well, that's about what we're going to find out right now. Well, welcome to the Worry-Free Retirement. I am that little man in the sweater vest, 401k rollover specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And with us in the studio in Louisville, Kentucky this morning, by the way, we're filming this show on October 29th, 2019, is America's favorite financial sidekick, Aaron Orander, along with his sidekick, helping to produce the show, Megan Murphy. And for the next 3 weeks, including this week, 3 more weeks after this, total 4 weeks, I guess, we're going to make a hard U-turn and discuss one of the most sacred covenants known to God and man, the marriage of two people, and how the commitment of marriage translates into selecting a financial advisor that will hopefully be with you till death do you part. You know, as someone who has personally met with over 15,000 savers, I can attest to the fact that one of the biggest commitments you'll ever make, besides, of course, getting married and spending the rest of your life with someone, is the commitment that you'll make when you hand over your 401k or other hard-earned money to a financial advisor who ironically is proposing to handle your money. Oh, speaking of marriage, I am so thankful that after 36 years of marriage to my high school sweetheart, Susan, I can honestly say that the idea of being married to the same person for the rest of your life, and of course all that goes into building a trusting and fulfilling relationship, is tough work. Now, for Susan and me, it all started back in 1976 when a good friend at high school, Don, said to me, "Hey, Tony, I got someone you need to meet." So right there in the middle of Bowling Green High School's library, Don introduces me to this very attractive young lady by the name of Susan Moore. Well, not only did I immediately fall head over heels when I met Susan, I also got very excited to hear that Susan, who was a few months older than me, was old enough to have her driver's license. Problem was, since Susan didn't drive a car, she didn't go to the trouble to secure her driver's license. Now for me, my grandfather had just given me a 62 Volkswagen Beetle. It was sitting in the driveway at my dad's house, but I couldn't drive it because I had my permit and no license. So I was in shock to find out that Susan was old enough to get her driver's license. So the first question out of my mouth was, "Hey Susan, what's your phone number?" My question was, "Hey Susan, why in the world don't you go get your driver's license so then I can have a driver's license person sit with me so I can drive this Volkswagen?" And to which she replied with this funny look on her face.
Give me that look. You know he's got that look.
Now, actually she said, "Okay, I'll get my driver's license." And that's what I'm talking about when I say commitment. Oh, another thing, real quick. Speaking of high school in the 1970s, I found an old photo of me and Susan. Here it is. And a bunch of them were at these high school sponsored dances. Many of you young people are going, "What's a high school dance?" The funny one though, notice this one photo. Don't look kids, turn your heads. Look at the backdrop at this high school sponsored dance. Yes, yep, sponsored high school dance. All I can say, folks, this was the 70s, okay? So for me and Susan, while we certainly have had our ups and downs, but by the grace of God, we've managed to commit to hang in there with one another and commit our marriage to each other. Unfortunately, the lifelong commitment of two people in holy matrimony doesn't always end happily. According to USA.gov, Every 36 seconds, a marriage which starts out on the front end looking rosy will end in divorce. In other words, 2,400 divorces end each day. That translates into 16,800 divorces every week, meaning about 876,000 marriages will dissolve each and every year in divorce. Now, quite frankly, I can relate to these statistics on divorce. As a 10-year-old snotty-nosed kid growing up in Lexington, Kentucky, through nobody's fault, incidentally, my parents divorced. And while I hated to see them divorce, many, many good things actually came out of this unfortunate event. You know, here's how I think of things like this. If my parents had not divorced, my dad would have never taken a job in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So had he not moved to Bowling Green, Kentucky for this new job, I would have never met Susan in the Commons area at Bowling Green High School. Had they not divorced, I would have not married Susan and been introduced, listen to this, introduced to the financial world by my father-in-law in 1984. He was the one that gave me exposure to this business, which I now love dearly. And best of all, through the tragic of the event of divorce, my marriage to Susan allowed me to have 3 wonderful children. And not only that, one of those children has now provided us 2 grandchildren. As for what's in it for you, my parents' divorce, this has allowed me to pursue a broadcasting degree, my psychology degree, and now here we are in 2019 on a television show talking about finances, which gives you an opportunity to see exactly what we do at Tony Walker Financial, and of course, how we're able to help so many savers worry less about money. Some pretty cool stuff. So Tony, you say, my goodness, what in the world does marriage and divorce have to do with my money and who I might decide to turn it over to? Well, when I return, what I'm about to share with you will not only save you a lot of money, heartache, and aggravation, but also help ensure that the person who handles your money is as committed to the success of your retirement as you are committed to entrusting them with your money. Really good stuff coming up. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. I'm Tony Walker. I'll be right back.
With 401k plans at all-time highs, why continue to risk your hard-earned money? There's a safer way to retire worry-free. Attend nationally recognized retirement specialist Tony Walker's next free workshop, Retirement 101, December 9th in Louisville, December 10th in E-Town, and December 12th in Bowling Green. These workshops are free, but seating is limited, so register today at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a buyout? Has the company you work for recently moved or been acquired or closed its doors forever? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k to safer territory. Why continue to risk your hard-earned money when you don't have to? Let's meet in person today to discuss your retirement options. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your no-obligation appointment to meet with me in person. Do it today.
And now, back to the Worry-Free Retirement with your host, Tony Walker.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. I found an old picture of my father here. This was taken, I think, back in the mid-'60s. It kind of has that 60s look. I remember we'd take a vacation once a year. That was at some hotel and motel in Florida. Good-looking fellow there, you know. But I think about my dad. During high school, we actually batched it. It was just he and I living together and had some great times. And if you're just now joining us, we're talking about a little bit about marriage, divorce, the past. And I look back and I'm so grateful I had that time with my father because he did pass away at a young age and he had some great sayings. This was one of them. And this was true, boy. Nothing stays the same. And this is what we're talking about. The theme of the show, we're going to get into this more and more, is monitoring your progress. And the point is, folks, this is a retirement planning show. I'm not a money manager. I'm not a wealth manager. I'm a retirement planning specialist. I've been in this business 35 years. We've got over 2,500 clients. I've met with thousands and thousands of people. And it's like my dad said, here's what I can tell you about retirement. Nothing stays the same. So let's compare the commitment of holy matrimony, marriage, between two people who vow to spend the rest of their lives together in marriage with the idea of a financial marriage between you, your money, and someone out there who refers to themselves as either a financial advisor, money manager, retirement specialist, whatever. What I'm going to do, this is going to be kind of fun. We're going to walk over to the whiteboard, and basically what I'm going to do is, I kind of came up with this. I really said there's basically 6 steps to any marriage, all right? I'll cover these with me and Susan. I'll make a kind of an analogy there, but then I'm also going to talk about the financial world, just like me, who's after your money and trying to help you, all right? So the first thing is the introduction. Again, I was introduced to my wife Susan by a good friend of mine named Don. In that introduction, the only purpose was to introduce each other. There was no expectations. He just thought I might want to meet this nice young lady, good-looking young girl named Susan Moore. That was the introduction. Now, in the financial world, this show might be an introduction to you. You may not even know who Tony Walker is. You were channel surfing and boom, you're looking at a guy in a sweater vest and you're thinking, hey, who's this? So you're sitting there watching the show. So by way of introduction, I'm trying to share with you what we do to help savers worry less about money. That's the first step. If you like the first step, then you all of a sudden form. Again, I've got a psychology degree. Unfortunately, we all immediately form impressions. We just do that. Our mind goes there and you're forming an impression. My impression of Susan was, voila, nice young lady, and also, hate to say this, she had her driver's license. This was a match made in heaven already. Your impression, probably many of you, hopefully, of this show is going, hey, this guy looks like he knows what he's talking about. Or you might say, I've watched him on TV for years. I mean, I've been on TV 20 plus years. I've worked with thousands of people. Hopefully your impression is favorable, especially if you're a saver. Now, what are some of the impressions you're getting from many people? Well, if you're one of the 10,000 people that's turning 65, you're getting bombarded with introductory dinner seminar invitations. Folks, these things are coming in the mail left and right. I know they are. And then we saw one recently. Now, this was my impression. This was someone offering to buy you a steak dinner. And on this invitation, they didn't even mention who was going to be there, the name of the firm hosting it, the name of the presenter. I mean, my thoughts were, gosh, at least I'd want to know who's going to be there. So not a great first impression. Okay, so assuming the initial impression is good, then you go to the dating phase. Well, how does that work, Tony, in the financial world? Well, the financial world introduces themselves, tries to make a good impression, and then they want to go on a date with you. What they want to do is look at your information. They want to see if there's a fit between you and them for them possibly handling your money. Nothing wrong with that. Now, assuming the dating goes okay, here's what a lot of people in the financial world do. They do this sometimes with marriage. They want to rush to propose to marry to you. Now, this is what tickles me, folks. Me and Susan, before I proposed to her, dated for over 6 years, probably too long. But I guarantee you, when I finally popped the question to old Susan, we both knew we were going to get married. I proposed to her, but we knew each other very, very well. Here's the problem. I see this all the time. Many of you come to me and you'll say this, Tony, 3 or 4 years ago or whatever, I turned over all my money to a financial advisor. Since that time, I never see him. I never hear from him. And I'll say, oh, why were you so quick to turn your money over? And they say, well, I don't know. I didn't know who to see. They seem like a nice person. Folks, that's no reason to turn your life savings over to somebody. You've got to date them a while. And we're going to find out in a minute what that dating really should look like. It is not about a proposal. It's not about an annuity or investments. That's just part of the equation when it gets into retirement planning. Again, folks, you're getting ready to make a lifelong commitment to an advisor who's supposed to be there for the long run. But what happens? So maybe they do propose to you and you say, okay, let's get engaged. So you begin to roll your 401k over. You move money, you start writing checks, and it all feels okay during the engagement period. But here's what happens in many cases, not all cases, in many cases. You find out this is not a marriage made in heaven. In other words, as soon as they get your money, as soon as the dust settles, some of you tell me this, you don't even get to talk to the original advisor. The next time you go back, maybe it's a 26-year-old, you can't even find the original person you were married to. Maybe, like the real world, they don't even return your calls. I had a person come in the other day and they had moved a lot of money over to an advisor. He said, Tony, I can't even get this person to return my calls, and this person has my life savings. So folks, if you're feeling like that, you may be sitting there saying, Tony, yeah, I've been through this whole thing and now I feel like I'm getting ready to get married to somebody. What I would say is, just like we said in the opening monologue, slow down. There's no hurry here. Many of you have worked 30, 40 years to build up your life savings. Why in the world do you want to rush out here and go out on a quick date and get married overnight and go eloping, I guess we could say. Here's what I would propose we do. If you're sitting there and you're retired, nearing retirement, maybe you feel like your current advisor is not taking care of you. Maybe you have been thinking about purchasing a product and you just want a second opinion. Why don't you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com right now? Here's what we can do. At no cost or obligation, let's set up a date. It can either be by phone, I'll talk to you in person, or if it warrants, I will meet with you in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. And best of all, there's no cost or obligation. And as we're going to see in the next segment, what I'm going to provide you is not a proposal. The proposals won't cut it when it comes to retirement planning, folks. I'm going to show you how we provide a game plan that not only see how we're going to help you, but how we're going to monitor your progress long into the future. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. Who can you trust? It's one of the most important decisions you'll have to make. Question is, are you ready? Well, we're here to help at Tony Walker Financial. You know, we care more about you than we do your money, and we have over 2,000 happy clients and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Rolling over a 401k, confused about Social Security, maybe you're afraid of running out of money. Learn how to use and enjoy and protect your hard-earned money. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement, and we are talking specifically about our 5-step process, the Worry-Free Retirement. And you might say, Tony, how long have you been using that process? Well, actually, it was born out of a book I wrote years ago called The Worry-Free Retirement. Here it is. And what we're going to do, for the first 25 people that go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, we're going to give this book away free. I'll even autograph it for you, send it to you, no obligation, first 25. So what you do is you go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. In the search bar, type in giveaways, okay, and it'll take you there, a landing page. Again, we won't drive you crazy. We'll just drop it in the mail and hope you'll enjoy the book. But the Worry-Free Retirement is more than just a book. It's a process. As you'll see in a minute, we have proprietary software. And more importantly, this 5-step process allows us all, including you and I, assuming you want me to be your financial advisor, to stay on the same page, not just now, but a commitment long into the future. In fact, we use 5 steps here. The first thing we do, in fact, in his masterful book, Stephen Covey's 7 Steps of Highly Effective People, he does something which is actually very biblical. He says this: begin with the end in mind. And what he's talking about is what we do here. Folks, what we're trying to do, we're talking about retirement. We are retirement planning specialists. We don't care what happened in the past. We're trying to plan for the future. For instance, many of you maybe have made good money in the stock market with your 401k plans. And you're sitting there, and I know you're nervous Nellies right now. You're getting ready to retire, and you can't afford to take a 40% hit like people did in '08. Totally different ballgame. So we're trying to clarify your vision. We want to use and enjoy the money. We want to protect the money, and we're really good at it. The second step is we assess your situation. Now, unlike most people that give you proposals, I can train a 5th grader to give you a proposal. What you need is a game plan. You will receive a proprietary game plan, absolutely no cost. Why? Because we want to make sure that you're committed to what we're trying to help you with. This is a win-win for both of us, folks. It's not just about me, it's about you and how we can try to help you. So you need to understand the frame of reference from our recommendations. The third step is we take that game plan, and if you decide to work with us, we implement it. We do everything for you. We have a great staff. Our staff can do all the 401k rollovers. They can fill out the paperwork. I think I've got some of the best staff in the country. They're very, very well trained and very specialized in making sure that we continue to service everything after the sale. But here's the step I want to talk about in our remaining time. Monitor your progress. Here's what I hear. Now, I'm not saying all advisors do this, but I'm hearing this more and more. Tony, I met an advisor recently. You know, we dated for a few times and we got married. I moved my money over and I haven't heard from him since. In fact, when I go back, I keep getting other advisors. They don't seem to know what's going on. They won't return my call. Here is the problem. The problem is you never got a written game plan. So there's nothing to monitor. You see, when you work with Tony Walker Financial, when you call our offices, everyone in our office has access to our game plan we've set up. This allows us to respond very quickly to your needs and allows us to help you with tax planning and when to take Social Security and which buckets to draw money out of, how much to take, whether you should be gifting money or spending money, all the things you want to do in retirement with your money. That's what we're trained to do. People might say, well, Tony, I don't believe you. You see a lot of people. I can't believe you meet all these clients once they become clients. Well, I hold in my hands for the last 2 days, all right? These are actual appointments. I had 28 appointments in the last 2 days. I saw these people face to face, and 7 of those appointments, listen carefully, were existing clients. You see, at Tony Walker Financial, here's how this works. You become a client. We have a full-time fiduciary on staff that can answer most of your questions because I do stay very busy. However, if you want to talk to me by phone, or if you think it's urgent and you feel you want to meet with me in person and take advantage of my 35 years of experience and say, I want to meet with Tony, we don't ask any questions. They will book an appointment with you and I. We will meet for 30 minutes and we'll dive right back into whatever it is you want to talk about. To me, that is my obligation to you. You've entrusted your money, you've committed your money to me, and I'm going to make sure, as long as God willing, I'm going to be here to take care of you. Now, what have we done at Tony Walker Financial? You might say, well, that sounds well and good, Tony, and okay, so you're going to continue to meet with me. Well, what happens if you retire? Well, that ain't going to happen. I'm not going to retire as long as I enjoy doing what I'm doing here. But what happens if you die? What happens if you get disabled? That could happen. This is why at Tony Walker Financial, once again, I have a team of service experts that I've trained. I have Heather Hughes, a fellow fiduciary who has over 13 years of experience. I have my favorite son-in-law who is working. We are expanding our operation, so if and when, eventually when I guess, if and when something does happen to me, you are going to be taken care of. That's our obligation to you, that's our commitment to you, and we know that, as my late great father used to say, nothing's going to stay the same. So how about you? You may be sitting there saying, well, Tony, this is all well and good, but I kind of feel like you do right now. I don't really have a commitment to anybody. Or maybe you're one of those poor souls who turned over your money a little too quickly in the dating process and you've been divorced by your financial advisor. Why don't you give us an opportunity to talk? Let's kind of go out on a date, if you will. Let's just either talk by phone or we can meet in person. This is real simple. All you do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Now, here's how this works. When you go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, we do not sell your emails to anyone. That stays private. When you click on that Let's Get Started, that actually goes directly to our offices. You will then be contacted by one of our full-time staff to see exactly what's going on, what needs you have, if it's urgent, and if you would like to speak to me in person. And if so, we don't ask any questions. Oh, and by the way, we don't discriminate based on how much money you have. Many of these advisors anymore, unless you have $250,000, they're not even going to answer the phone. At Tony Walker Financial, our minimum account size to do business is only $5,000. Why do we do that? Because we're in the business of helping savers. We do not discriminate based on the amount of money you have. We're basing it on trying to help you worry less about it. So go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com right now, log on, and click on that Let's Get Started. Remember, there's never a cost or obligation to discuss your situation. Well, does the Bible have anything to say about faithfulness, trustworthiness? Oh yeah, it's got a lot to say. Looking forward to this particular segment, but first I got to get me a cup of coffee.
With 401k plans at all-time highs, why continue to risk your hard-earned money? There's a safer way to retire worry-free. Attend nationally recognized retirement specialist Tony Walker's next free workshop, Retirement 101, December 9th in Louisville, December 10th in E-Town, and December 12th in Bowling Green. These workshops are free, but seating is limited, so register today at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a buyout? Has the company you work for recently moved or been acquired or closed its doors forever? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k to safer territory. Why continue to risk your hard-earned money when you don't have to? Let's meet in person today to discuss your retirement options. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your no-obligation appointment to meet with me in person. Do it today. Jesus said to be successful in any relationship will require a great deal of faith and trust, and also a way to monitor your progress in those relationships. Problem is, our relationships with others are so fragile. People let us down. People get sick. People die. People get divorced. People don't hold up their end of the bargain. We are fragile because we're human. You see, these worldly relationships that we create in us a lot of expectations that unfortunately, one way or the other, it's going to end. It's just a matter of time. But not so with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. In fact, Jesus had this to say about His relationship with you and I when He said the following, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." The Apostle Paul knew of our Lord's great faithfulness, His commitment to us. In fact, in Charles Spurgeon's devotional morning and evening, Spurgeon focuses on 2 Timothy 2:11, where Paul summarizes our relationship with God this way. He says, "It is a faithful saying," or another translation might say, "It is a trustworthy statement," and he repeats this 4 times. Let's look at those. The first faithful saying is in 1 Timothy 1:15, where he says, "Jesus came into the world to save sinners." The second faithful statement was 1 Timothy 4:8-9, where he says, "Godliness is profitable unto all things." 2 Timothy 2:11-12, it says, "If we suffer with Him, we shall also reign with Him." And finally, Titus 3:8 says, "That thy which has believed in God might be careful to maintain good works." You know, that last one for me means that even when it comes to serving my clients, I'm going to do my best to honor God by being there for them. In other words, no matter how much money they have, someone might have to have our help. And we are going to treat those people, regardless of the amount of money they have, with respect. And we appreciate the fact that they have entrusted their money to us. And how do I do this? It's all based on my faith in God, not on how much money somebody's going to hand over to me. Our commitment is to help savers worry less about money. Well, how about you? Do you feel like the financial world is a lot more excited to get your money than committing to being there for you to serve your needs long after the sale? Do you even have a game plan that is easy to understand, that allows you, your family, and more importantly, you and your advisor to stay on the same page so that you can quickly and easily monitor your progress? Well, if you don't, or if you'd simply like to see how our worry-free retirement is so different from the rest of the pack, log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. We can either begin with a phone call, or if it warrants, I'll be happy to meet with you in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices, and I promise you, we will be there long after the sale. All right, for the next 3 weeks, we're taking a little U-turn here. We're going to get into a deep dive of monitor your progress. What does that look like for the first half of life, halftime, and then how do we monitor your progress to make sure you're successful and worry-free about your money in the second half of life? Hope you've enjoyed today's program. I'll look forward to seeing you next week on the Worry-Free Retirement. But you remember, between now and then, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.